Welcome to the Relaxed Dog Podcast, the podcast where the dogs are the stars of the show. Welcome to the Relaxed Dog Podcast, sponsored by therelaxeddog.com. Thank you for listening. This is episode 31. I am your host, Robert Ober, and I hope that you and your dog are well. This week's guest is Erica Boling, and she'll be telling us all about her Belgian Malinois, Bacci. But first, in some doggy news, and forgive the pronunciation, but in Spalumcheen, I think it is, in Canada, there was a young child who had some developmental delays, wandered away from their home. And the family, obviously distressed, called in the local officials. And police dog Jagger turned up in a matter of hours, tracked the missing child through a wooded area and to a gravel pit where the child was found in good condition and returned safely to the family. So well done, Jagger. Now we go to Texas in the USA, where, I'll keep this one short, someone had a loaded pistol tucked inside the waistband of their pants, picked up their dog, and unfortunately the dog's paw lodged in the trigger, sending a bullet into that person's thigh. I think there is an obvious lesson there. And in contrast to that, there is something called the Genius Dog Contest, which I'll just be finishing by the time this episode comes out. And they're going to live stream on Facebook and YouTube. 6 of the world's smartest dogs will be up against each other in a series of events, which is also doubling as a scientific experiment in a quest to find a successor to a border collie by the name of Chaser, who had learned more than 1,000 nouns. That's a smart dog. So how many words does your dog know? I think you may be surprised when you start totaling them up. And now, on to this week's interview. Welcome to the Relaxed Dog Podcast. I am here with Erica Boling. How are you today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
It is my absolute pleasure. Now, I think I might have even made a mistake. Is it doctor, or should I have used doctor?
Oh, you can. You don't have to, but it is. but yeah, some people call me doctor. You can use my first name during the interview. We'll keep it personal.
Thank you very much for that. And today we're going to be talking all about...
We're going to be talking about Bacci.
Bacci. Now, for those people that don't know, who is Bacci?
Bacci is my Belgian Malinois. He was my first Malinois from working bloodlines, and he actually just recently turned 11 years old. In just about 2 more months, he'll be 11 and a half. So he's been with me quite a while, and thankfully he's still with me today.
That's fantastic. Now I'm going to ask, like I do everyone, to go back in time and tell us what led you guys getting together and why.
Yeah, we started out, I was doing search and rescue, and I had a Doberman, And I had originally gotten her as a pet dog. I did not get her to be a working dog. And she did not really come from working lines. And I needed a dog with more drive and a dog that was bred to work. And so I basically I met on my search and rescue team, one of the people on the team, we had people with a Malinois and a Dutch Shepherd, and they were search dogs. And I just absolutely fell in love with them. And I'd actually wanted a Malinois, probably 20 years ago when I was working on my PhD, but I was living in an apartment and I did a lot of research and I read about all the high energy and the needs of the Malinois. And thankfully I decided at the time that was not the best fit for my lifestyle. And so that's how I kind of ended up with doing the Dobermans that were not from a working line. But now that I was ready for a working line dog, basically through the search and rescue team, I decided that now's the time I wanted to get a Malinois. And so I started doing a lot of research. And there is Michael Ellis, a breeder out on the West Coast in California. I'm not sure how I originally found out about him as a breeder, but I started doing some researching his bloodlines, and he did a breeding with a dog. There's a woman in California, her name's Debbie Skinner, and she has dogs with some real old school working Belgian bloodlines. And so I did a lot of, I probably spent 2 years of research.
Wow.
Before this. And, I did a lot of research, studied the breed. I was even going on research online forums in Europe and translating the forum conversations to learn about the different bloodlines. And then when I learned about this breeding, I got on the waiting list. It was interesting. I originally was not supposed to get him. I was supposed to get a dog from a different litter, and he was supposed to be for search and rescue. And it was probably about 4 weeks before I was supposed to get him. I went and watched a friend compete in a sport called French ring. It's a protection sport. And I'd never seen it in real life before. And I went to visit her. I saw it and I absolutely fell in love with the sport. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. And so I told the breeder that I was interested in possibly doing the sport. And he actually, they didn't think they had a puppy for me in the litter that I wanted. But when I told him I had interest in doing some other things, he says, you know what? I think I got a dog for you in this other litter that you originally wanted. And so that was how I ended up with him. It was quite a long journey. It was, I wanted a dog from that litter. I thought I was going to get one from a previous one. And then when I kind of thought I would change my direction, in a roundabout way, I ended up with him. And so it was interesting because he was supposed to be for search and rescue. But I tell you, when I first saw that sport, I had never seen such a tremendous level of drive, crazy energy, crazy drive in a working dog, and to see handlers with so much control. I had never seen such precise, just the control and the responsiveness and the relationship with the handler and the dog. It really grabbed me the first instant I saw it. And deep down, I think I kind of knew that that's what I wanted to do. But then I was like, how do I tell the search and rescue team after they spent all this time helping me and mentor me? And I thought, okay, I'm going to dabble in both while he's a puppy. And then I'm going to see what he excels in. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what I was going to do. Well, he comes from working bloodlines. He comes from bloodlines that do the protection sports and the Mondio and the police dogs. So it was in his blood. It was in his genetics that he would absolutely love the protection sports. But it took me about 9 months to build up the courage and tell my search and rescue team that I didn't want to do the searching anymore, but I actually wanted to go into protection work. And I was really scared of what they would think of, but they were amazing. They said, we're just so happy that you found something you're passionate about. And we're so happy to see you're so excited about this. And I was like, why didn't I tell them sooner? But I felt really guilty that I had spent so much time having them help me figure out, where to get this dog. And then I changed what I did. So he trained when he was young up till about 8 months old. He did do training in search and rescue. But then we found a trainer in Connecticut, who was very experienced in the sport I wanted to do. And, pretty much switched him over around 9 months old. So that's how I ended up with him and how I ended up. He is not a search and rescue dog. He actually he's retired from protection work.
Well, firstly, I applaud the time and the effort to do the research before getting a dog. And I think, wow, so many people just go bang and get something and then they don't realize what they have. So kudos to you for that. Now, how was Bacci when you first collected? Can you recall the first meeting?
Yeah, he flew in on the airplane, and he came right out, and typical puppy, and settled right in. But I think he had jet lag. I think he started to wake up about 5 days later. And he was my first working line dog, my first Malinois, from very strong bloodlines. And, you can do all the research in the world to be prepared, but I was not prepared. and he was a handful. He's a very strong, very dominant dog. And these are dogs, when you think of police dogs are bred and trained that when you put pressure on them, they fight back. If you have somebody stabbing you or, a police dog and somebody's punching it and fighting it, you want that dog to fight back. You don't want him to back down,
Absolutely.
So that's the kind of dog I got. So when he was 8 weeks old and I took him, it was a soccer game going on and I was out in a field just sitting there with my little puppy, watching the soccer game, and he starts biting me. And, kind of typical puppy biting, but, more so from, Malinois and being a working line. They're very, very, very mouthy typically. Mm-hmm. And I just gave a stern no, I just raised my voice and he just went like all out attack mode on me. And I just had to hold him away from my body because when he went after me and, I had blood on my arm and he was 8 weeks old. Mm-hmm. So it was challenging. He was a kind of puppy. If you tried to restrain him, if he was running around and you grabbed him or grabbed his collar and tried to restrain him, he would go after you. He would, it wasn't like a puppy bite. Like he would be like pissed off and say, let me go and go, bite you. Like he wanted you to, force you to make you let go. And he was also, he was not super social. Like he was when I took him to like a 5K race, I was just carrying him in my arms, he's a little puppy, and he saw there was a dog. Oh, maybe the dog was maybe 15 feet from us, 10 feet from us. And he saw that dog and just went into like attack mode. Like he just wanted to go after this dog. And he was 8 weeks old, eight or 9 weeks old.
Serious attitude.
Yeah. So it was interesting because, all my other dogs were a lot softer, a lot easier dogs. And I tried to raise him in, all positive and positive reinforcement. And, I tried to treat him at first like I did all my other dogs, and it did not go well.
So did you have other dogs at home at the time?
At the time, I had my female Doberman. So he got along with her. He got along well, I think, with the female dog. And she was he was a puppy when they were introduced. So he got along with her. But I can't trust him around like strange dogs, like other male dogs, and having two dominant male personalities that doesn't. I can't trust him. He can be in obedience and be in control. He can be around dogs and compete and just leave them alone. But he can't be trusted to just go and kind of hang out with a strange dog. It's but thankfully, he did get along with the Doberman, and I had a male Doberman before that, but I think he passed away. My male Doberman, I got Bacci just maybe 2 months after before my male Doberman passed away. So it was just him and my female Doberman. So they got along.
Wow, nice. And how was he in the sort of like early adolescent stage?
In the early adolescent stages, he started challenging me more. and this is... Yeah, I learned a lot from him. I learned the most from him, but I really, thankfully, the breeder put me in touch with the French ring group in Connecticut where I trained. And the trainer that I worked with was very, very, very experienced with these types of dogs. And I think that's the only reason I survived and got through that, was because I had very experienced people who knew exactly the kind of dog I was working with. And they helped mentor me and guide me and helped me with the training and helped me get through the adolescence phases. I'll tell you, there were many days I'd come home from training just crying. And it was really hard with him up till after about 1.5 years. Then, things started smoothing out. We knew how to interact with each other. I was more skilled in what I was doing. I communicated better with him. He communicated better with me, and our relationship really started to get stronger. But the first 1.5 years were really challenging with him, really challenging. But I learned a lot, and I really, really leaned heavily on the expertise of the expert trainers around me to guide me through that process.
Can you recall any of the, say, more challenging times?
There were times that, sometimes training around, other dogs, if he decides he wants to go after one of them or, attack a dog, he would go months and months, and you think that, he's fine, and you start to let your guard down, and then, something kind of sets him off. And so it keeps you on your toes. You can't, it's, a lot of his drive and personality, and his strong personality, as, you have environmental factors, but you also have genetics. And so, he's this type of dog, you just can't, and many of these type of working dogs, you just can't let your guard down, because of, the strength and the power, the drive and things like that. So he kept me on my toes. I know a couple times, one time he was 9 months old, and again, he was in a down stay, and he broke the down. I think he sat up or went to move, and I was very, very, strong voice. I said, "No, down." I just raised my voice, and he growled back at me just for my raised voice. And he was a type of dog I could not be emotional training him. If I was emotional, he would react with emotion, or he never bit me, but you could see he was right. If you got emotional, or if you did something that, he thought was not fair, he definitely could be a dog that would go up the leash at the handler or bite the handler. So I had to really learn how to, if I got frustrated or things like that, I really had to keep my emotions under control, because he did not respond well if I got impatient and emotional in the training. And emotional, like I said, just simply raising my voice could get a reaction out of him. You could not bring in anger or, be all frustrated and be like, ah. And there were many times when I would get frustrated, but I learned that I had to just be like, just come in, and we're training. And, if I am getting upset or frustrated or whatever, that's not the time to train.
Yeah, I've heard.
And, I learned that from him.
You get some of them, they really, it's almost like a craving of that stability that they want from you. They don't want any deviation or anything like that.
Yeah. But they're just little incidents, here and there where, you just kind of learn like, all right, well, I can't do that, or that didn't go well next time. And when I'm feeling that way, I just won't train. So, I learned a lot with that. And then, and just a lot of it was just communication, improving the communication, because what made it challenging was if there was a miscommunication, and then if the frustration came in. But if it was clear and you communicate, and like I said, I just kind of, I can get all excited and be like, yay, yay, yay. But any kind of a serious tone or being upset or tenseness, I had to keep that under check. And he was much better when we would train in those types of situations.
Okay. And should I ask, were there times where he showed his softer side to you when he was young like that?
Yeah, it was interesting. He's like super, super affectionate. Like he loves to give hugs. He would like take his paws and wrap his paws and, kind of like, like wants to touch you and feel you and put his paw on you. And so he's super, with people who he knows and likes, he's very cuddly, very, very affectionate. Like he likes it. Like I'll be on the couch and he's like laying at my feet and he wants to get close and close and close. And sometimes I'll just like sit down next to him. And like he was doing it last night, I was sit on the ground with him and he'll literally like lay half his body over on top of me. And I mean, he'll literally like sometimes, he's old now and he can't jump up, I would let him occasionally on the couch, or he might jump on the bed, but he's not strong enough now to be leaping up. But like, he would like to do things like he would just lay his whole body just completely on top of you and just snuggle, and super, super affectionate. So it was interesting because people would see him on the competition field and, he's like this, big, bad, tough guy. And, people would be, even, people that were experienced with these types of dogs, they'd be like, oh, we're not going to mess with Bacci, but I'm like, he would give this impression to them and they would be like, wow, he's this big bad dog, we better be careful. And then he was like just such a love bug also. So that is something that stands out, is just, he's always been just super, super affectionate and tactile, like he likes to be on you, next to you, touching you, putting his foot. He likes that touch. I know I have some friends that have Malinois that they're not cuddly. They're not big on being pet. And I really enjoy having the dogs that like to be super affectionate like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So can you remember some of his like early performances in competition?
I really lucked out. He was just amazing. It was my first time in the sport and he made it seem so easy, because when I got my second dog for the sport, it was like, okay, this isn't quite as easy as I thought with Bacci. But yeah, he did really well at one point, he was like number 2 in the nation. There's 3 different levels: ring 1, ring 2, and ring 3. And we were, I think it was, in the national championships, like he would, scored super high and did really, really well. And we had great trainers and great people supporting us. And he had the genetics, for the sport. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it just came naturally. In the protection sports, you have a lot of dogs, where you have to develop bite technique, or getting them calm on the bite, or building up dogs that don't have confidence, and you need to build up their confidence. And like he had all of that genetically. He had just a natural, amazing deep bite. He had a natural, calm bite. He had natural drive that no matter how challenging the situation or the environment, he had the drive to push through it. Nothing would scare him, off the field or make him, nervous to where he didn't want to do the work. So a lot of that was just really good genetics for the work. And then, like I said, we had some really good trainers mentoring and helping us. So I mean, we worked really hard. It wasn't, easy per se. We put many, 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 many hours of training, but when we actually walked onto the trial field, he carried that right onto the competition field. And my other dog, that was not the case, because we, train really hard and we go on the competition field and it'd be like, whoa, what just happened? And Bacci was really consistent. He was real consistent in the training, and we would go on the trial field and he would just doing it. We would get so many compliments from people who they just liked watching how we work together. And even now, he's been retired for many years, and I still have people today who make comments about how much they enjoyed watching us compete together on the field.
And can you give us a brief overview of what French ring, the components of it?
Yeah, in French ring, there's a couple different phases. The first phase is you show the dog's ability, the physical ability in jumping. So they have like a hurdle jump. It goes up to like 1.3 meters. They have a broad jump. They have a palisade wall that's, I don't know how high it is in the highest level, but I mean, the dog's like scaling this wall. It's like 7 feet going up over the wall. So it really, to me, I think it's like the most physically demanding sport out there, because a lot of dogs, a lot of breeds just don't have the physical capability to handle what you do in the sport, especially at the highest level. So it's the athleticism is huge for the jumping, the hurdle, the broad jump, the palisade wall. And then you do obedience. You do some healing patterns. You have to heel with a muzzle to show that the dog won't fight the muzzle. There's some scent discrimination that you also do in the obedience. And so you have a series of exercises you go through with obedience, and then there's protection. And in the protection work, the decoy wears a suit, a full body suit, the arms, the legs, and the dog can bite anywhere on the suit. And then they have different types of exercises where, like, one is where the person's running down the field and you send the dog to go attack. And then at the very last minute, the judge is like, no, your dog's not supposed to attack. And you have to blow your whistle or call your dog, and he has to instantly come back. And you want your dog to get as close as possible, like right before they bite, and then whistle and call them back. Because if you blow the whistle too early, you lose points. You don't get the full points. And so it's a high level of control. Your dog has to respond instantly. And everything is, even from the very beginning level, the entry level, you have no collar, no leash. Your dog is completely naked. There's nothing on him, no leash or anything, even at the beginner, the entry level. And so you have you have genetically these real high driven, high drive, high energy dogs. And then you have to have this, control over them in these highly stimulating environments where the decoy has they call it a clatter stick. It's like a bamboo stick, and they shake it and they tease the dog, and, they make it so the dog wants to come after them, but the dog can't do that unless, you tell him. And then, like I said, sometimes at the last minute, you have to call him back, or sometimes you can let him bite. And then when he's biting, there's certain times where you have to call the dog and make him let go. And they have to let go like instantly. Like if you're seconds late, you lose points. So the dog has to be super, super responsive to every command that you give it, from, heeling at your side to releasing him to run down the field to calling him back or outing. And so we've got a number of protection bite work exercises. And then there's one that is called a guarding of the basket. And I think you can go up to like 5 minutes where the handler is completely out of sight. You're hidden, and the dog has a basket and he has to guard it. And he has to stay within a certain diameter, a certain distance right by the basket. And the decoy comes in and he tries to steal it from him. And he does all kinds of psychological things, trying to, psych the dog out and try to make him leave and try to attack him instead of protecting and kind of guarding this basket. And it's amazing to watch, because the dog is completely by himself and he's having to make a decision on, when is it okay to bite? When can I not bite? When do I have to, once he bites and the decoy walks away, if he walks away a certain distance, the dog has to let go and go back to the basket and maintain guarding the basket. And everything, the dog is completely making all these decisions on his own. And the handler's you can't even see them. The handler's hidden. So it's amazing to watch them, to be able to do the thinking and the thought process and decision making. And they're doing all of that on their own. At the same time, the decoy's teasing them, and trying to purposely make him make mistakes. So it's yeah, like I said, the first time I saw the sport, I just fell in love with it because it was the level of training, and the type of dog that had to have that level of training was just, when you see it at the highest level, it's just, for me, just super impressive.
Absolutely. And I know training has a big part, but for biting, does Bacci have a favorite place?
Yep, he's a leg dog. So some dogs, you'll have like upper body or lower body, but his preference is the lower body. He also has more training in the lower body. We started him when he was young on the lower body, but his preference would definitely be the leg, and he'll do the upper body. But yeah, I would say he's more comfortable biting the legs.
Oh, nice. So did you travel around much in the States for different competitions?
Yeah, we would travel throughout the U.S. I won't fly them. I don't feel comfortable flying my dogs, or putting them in cargo. So I would only go if I could drive. And so we did up and down the East Coast. We competed in Maine all the way down to Florida. I competed in kind of heading out towards the Midwest. And then I drove from New Jersey to the Wisconsin-Minnesota border. It was like a 24-hour drive. And we basically drove across, a good chunk of the United States to train with, his name's Fernando Dosta, and he's just a world-class level trainer decoy. And we traveled out there and we spent 10 days training with him, which was an amazing experience. But that was the furthest that I traveled. It was basically 2 days of 12 hours of driving by myself with him.
Well worth the effort.
It was an amazing experience. A lot of good memories.
Okay. So going back to, say, when you were at your old place, going out with Bacci apart from training, you took him onto hiking and things like that?
Yeah, he actually, I found out like he loves swimming. And as he got older, that was something that we would use just for fitness and stuff, when the old body's getting achy or sore. But I would take him sometimes to some just kind of local lakes and ponds. Actually, in New Jersey, we had a indoor swimming pool that I could take him to go swimming in. And we would do that. We do a lot of, the French ring training. I dabbled in detection work, put a little bit of a foundation on narcotics detection. But it was interesting. We would practice where you would have wooden boxes with the odor in the box, but he would want to guard the box. So that was from French ring. It was from guard the basket. So he was supposed to go and search for the odor, but instead he would stand on top of the box and go woo, 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 and guard and bark. And that was all his French ring training. And he had a lot of years of French ring training. And, I was just doing it for fun, the detection. And I was like, it was frustrating. I'd have to try to retrain all that and his behaviors. And so we just played around and dabbled in it. I didn't do it real serious, but it was funny. You could see the crossover of the sport interfering with our detection work.
Nice.
And then running and jogging, I do a little bit of, some jogging and running with him and just trying to keep him active.
Mm-hmm. That's great to hear.
And so it would come out in like fighting. So he would go and play with a puppy and they would play together. But as the play would escalate and he would get more and more excited, then it could actually turn into where he would be frustrated and then might lash out at the puppy, or it would escalate. So he did much better with older dogs that, were calmer and would not escalate the emotions and the activity. And so I did find that if it was an older dog and a dog that was really experienced and, being around dogs that maybe had a lot of energy and were annoying and could, kind of, put the younger dog in place, but do it in a way that was very calming. He would do better with, that type of a dog than say, just go turn him loose with another young dog. And they're just, the energy and the excitement just builds and builds and builds, and the frustration builds. And then that's, like I said, depending on the combination. So it really you had to be really careful, and you definitely had to monitor even any kind of interaction. Like even with my Doberman, when they would play, I could not let it escalate. And so I would let them play, but periodically, they were trained that I could interject myself at any time. And it was not like, it's just go do whatever you want, not, continuous, go crazy. So it was always monitored, and, I always kept it so things didn't get where they would escalate to a point where it might be a problem. So when he was with a dog that knew that dog and you knew the level of energy, that's fine. But when you're with a strange dog and a dog they don't know, you don't know how those dogs are going to respond when, another dog pushes all the wrong buttons, right? What's going to set them off? Because if you push the wrong buttons with Bacci, like I said, his response is to fight. That's his, an example is I was taking him for a walk when he was younger, and a tree branch fell behind us. And most dogs, I think, if they were startled, they have it's a startle reflex where they kind of jump, and it's almost like a fight or flight mode. If you're startled, you flee, you jump. Well, he was startled, and he didn't know what did it. This branch fell right behind us. And so his instant reaction was turn and attack. And it was almost like just a response. It was his immediate response was something startled me, turn and go after it. Yep. And it was almost like his initial response was act first. Well, this isn't not so unusual for Malinois. It's kind of act first and think later.
Yep.
So I had, definitely have to be careful and know if he's going to interact or be around other dogs, you have to know. And what is that other dog, or even people, what is that person, how are they going to act and react to him? Because, there are certain buttons that you can push, and you don't want to push those buttons. And he's a type of dog you want to pick your fights, wisely. and ideally you don't want to pick a fight. And he's a kind of dog, you gotta deal with it mentally. You gotta beat him at the mental game, because you don't want to get into kind of a physical disagreement. Cause he's a big, strong dog. And so it was something, like I said, he's the type of dog you just constantly, you got to be on your toes and know your environment and know what kind of interactions and what trigger points, and how your dog is going to respond. And like I said, it's, genetically he's bred to be a strong, dominant dog, and a dog that won't back down from, things that are, pressure or fear and things like that. So it's a totally different type of dog than any other type of dog I had trained before him.
Did he have any favorite toys?
His bite pillow for protection work. The balls were okay, but the reward was that bite pillow that we would do in protection sports.
Oh, nice. And what about, say, a favorite game?
Biting.
Biting. I see a theme here.
Tugs are okay, but that bite pillow, he loves that bite pillow. And the suit, the decoy, when they've got that biting suit on and biting the legs on the decoy, mm-hmm. That is his ultimate, is French ring. To the protection sport, that's his love. And it was sad when I had to retire him, because that there nothing can compare to how excited and how much he loves doing the protection work.
Sometimes think that physically, say a lot of males were slightly rewired, where the endorphins from, say, a nice ear scratch, the nerves have just gone down into the jawline instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's his most favorite. You can't even compare it. That would be 100, and then his second favorite thing would probably be a 50. Is nothing. People it's just interesting when people are like, the dog's not listening to you, and you're trying to get it to, reward it, make it come back to you with a tug, and make it come back to you with a ball, and make them excited to come back to you. And I'm like, you don't understand. That is more exciting than absolutely anything in the world I can give my dog. So, trying to say, look at this toy I have, come to me. That's not what he wants. He'll come to you because I've trained him, and I call you, you must come to me. But, trying to say, oh, he's not going to listen to you, try to reward him with something different. It's like, no, there's nothing that can compare to the satisfaction he has when he's doing the protection work.
Or do you notice any peculiar mannerisms that sort of set him apart a little bit different?
There's he's got a phobia of flies, and he had it a little bit when he was younger, but as he's getting older, it's gotten worse. So dogs that have like a fear of thunderstorms, and they just it's almost like it's not illogical. I mean, they can absolutely freak out. Mm-hmm. Like he'll freak out, if he hears a fly buzzing and he doesn't know where it is, or if he sees a fly, he's really scared of flies, and he'll pace, and he wants to escape or run to his crate. And it has gotten worse as he's gotten older. Just mentally, he's not. They're not as the same when they're 11 and a half as when they were 2. And I have noticed that he's gotten older. It's like a phobia. I have no idea why. So people are like, was he once bitten by a fly, or what is? I have no idea why flies. But it's interesting is he'll freak out. And if he thinks it's in the house somewhere, he gets all anxious, and he'll run from room to room, and he's real stressed. And if I kill it and I show it to him, then he's fine. Then it's like, okay, it's dead. I'm okay.
So ever had an impact when he was competing on the field?
No, thank goodness, never. I think because even in the obedience and competition, he's looking for the decoy. So he's so excited. He's like, where's the decoy? Where's the decoy? I want to get the decoy. That the fly never bothered him. There are definitely flies out. But I think because he was so excited about looking for where's that decoy, I want to go find that decoy, that it was just a mild distraction. If he did it now, I don't know. Because like I said, it has gotten a little bit worse as he's gotten older. So if he was in a down stay and the fly was buzzing around his ear, I don't know. He might decide to move and not stay in a down. But luckily, it never happened during competition.
Oh, good. So, how old was he when you got Knox?
I think he was about 3. 3, 4. I wanted to have him titled in ring 3, and I wasn't patient enough. I said, I'm going to wait until he finishes ring 3 and gets titled, and then I'm going to get my next dog. But we were actually competing in ring 2 before I got Knox. So I'd say there's about 3 years difference. About three years between them.
Mm-hmm. And how did that sort of initial interaction go?
They don't have much interaction. They're 2 strong, dominant Malinois, and they like to stare each other down if I allow it, but I don't allow it. So it's just kind of a monitored, controlled interaction, and it's not, again, you don't want the behaviors to escalate or anything to trigger and set them off. So, and I knew that, I tend to, I love Malinois, and I tend to prefer males versus females. And I knew they would be better if I had a male and a female. Probably, there are some males that will fight a female, but I knew that when I got my second dog, and I knew that it, again, it's just you just got to be on your toes and have well-trained dogs, and know your environment and manage it. But yeah, they're it's weird. They have like a love-hate relationship. So sometimes one will be in the crate and the other one wants to come and lay next to him. And 1 minute they're like, hey, let's hang out. And then the next they're like, rah, rah, rah. And, it's like, I will attack you. And it'll be like just out of the blue, they'll be sitting there chilling and hanging out, and one looks across the room, and all of a sudden there's a low growl, and I'm like, all right, somebody just looked at you the wrong way. Like kids, it's like, Mom, he's looking at me.
Yep.
So it's kind of like that, like he's looking at me, and one would growl and I'm looking at the other. Knox, normally he'd be like all innocent, just sitting there like, I didn't do anything. And I'm like, I know you did something, because he just growled out of the blue. You either stared him down or something. So, like kids, kids harassing each other.
You've sort of recently moved house into, got to say, a stunning location. How did they both go with that?
Yeah, it's they're doing really well. I live in Maine. I live near Acadia National Park, so we got a lot of outdoor trails and carriage trails and a lot of places to be active outdoors. It's interesting because as Bacci was getting older, he's got some deterioration of some. He's got like a slight narrowing. Well, it's been a while. We did an MRI. He had a slight narrowing of the spinal canal, and he's got some stenosis in the spine. And sometimes he has some mobility issues and some knuckling over of his back toes. And it was really interesting. While a house was being built, I was in South Carolina with my parents for quite a while. And he was really, back in July, he was having a lot of knuckling over of his toes, mobility. He had trouble standing up, and I wasn't even sure if he was going to make it to his birthday. His birthday was in August, and he was not doing well. His mobility, I was doing acupuncture and we did x-rays and stuff of his spine. I tried to keep him, active, but he just wasn't doing really well. And since I've come to Maine, he's just been improving his mobility and less of the knuckling. And I'm not exactly sure why. He was getting activity in South Carolina. We did a lot of stuff in the backyard, and my parents had a nice big backyard. Here we do a lot of hiking and walking and a little bit of jogging in the national park. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I think when in the heat and humidity bothers him more, and South Carolina's hotter, but he's actually done a lot better here. And I've seen improvement, and I'm not exactly sure why. We have been dealing with just some persistent coughing, and we did x-rays, and pretty sure it was pneumonia. We're treating him, and it was weird. All he did was had a little cough, just a persistent cough, nothing else, no other symptoms or anything. But we put him on antibiotics, and the x-rays show improvement. He's been on antibiotics for about 6 weeks now, but the cough is still there. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that, but he did have a little bit of a cough in South Carolina. So it's not new, but other than his coughing, he handled it well. And like I said, his health and his strength and his mobility, he's actually stronger and is more mobile and is actually getting around better now than he was, 4 months ago in South Carolina. Yeah, it's interesting.
If he's enjoying the outside environment more.
Yeah, we are. We are doing more extended in South Carolina. We would do cavaletti and little exercises, some short little sprints in the backyard every day. And then here, I try to get him out at least 3 days a week where we'll go. I'm trying to get him up to 2 miles. We haven't gotten there. We did 1.8 miles the other day, but he's doing more like steady state type, cardio. So it might be the type of exercise that he's doing here. But we don't do it as frequently because I don't have that, I'm on a hill. There's like a steep hill behind my house. I don't have like a big open field. So, we don't get the same type of daily exercise, but then we are getting longer distance and more time on the trails when we do go out. So it might be partly related to that. I've been giving them some supplements for some extra protein. And I think that's also helped make a difference in maintaining some more muscle mass on him. And I have noticed that he's been just seems stronger since I've been giving him the extra protein and the supplement. So I think that's also helping him and just getting stronger and trying to maintain as much muscle mass as we can.
Oh, nice. Have you had any interesting encounters with any sort of local wildlife on the trail?
Around the house, a lot. On the trail, deer. Right here, we've had a deer, and we've had a doe raise two babies, twins, and I've seen them growing up over the last 4 months here. And so they'll pop up right outside the living room window. And fox, there's fox, deer. Wild turkeys, supposed to be bear around. And luckily we haven't seen any bear. At night, I've heard some coyotes howling. We haven't seen them, but we've heard the coyotes. And on the trails, mostly, see squirrel or chipmunk and deer. There's a lot of deer around here.
And how does Bacci react with that sort of, all those new sort of animals?
He's good in the house. It's like, stranger alert, like, he'll do the barking, like there's somebody outside. But if we're outside or we're on a trail, he'll be interested in kind of perk up and look. Like the other day I pulled in the driveway and there was a buck right outside the garage, and he had, some decent sized antlers on him. He was just out by the grass, and I pulled up and got him out of the car, and we just stood there and looked at the deer, and he was fine. He just looked at him, interesting. He didn't try to bark or chase him or anything. But when he's in the house, I think it's more like I'm protecting the house. Mm-hmm. So I've got to alert and let you know that there's 3 deer outside the window.
Just want to go back to, I know we mentioned a few of the medical things over his life, and maybe because, or maybe not because of any kind of competition, but any other sort of medical issues that you've had to overcome?
He had some prostate issues with infection, and they pretty much said it probably would continue if we didn't have him neutered. So we did have him neutered, and he's been fine ever since. And so we had that kind of like emergency surgery. He had an infection. We had to get the infection, get that healed up, and then he had surgery for that. And then just a few months ago, he bloated. He had bloat, and he had emergency surgery for bloat. And the veterinarian actually said he hadn't seen a dog of his age that he's done surgery for bloat survive. So we're really lucky to still have him with us, and that he survived. I caught it early, the early signs in the morning. I could tell something wasn't quite right. And always bloat and heat stroke are two things I'm always just really concerned about, because how quickly it can strike them and kill them. And I saw some really early initial signs, and I was like, this isn't normal for him. I think he's bloating. And I ran I took him out to go to the bathroom, and he's kind of a little hunched over in the back, tried to throw up. Nothing came out. It looked like he had abdominal pain. He was not bloated. Sometimes they get like that enlarged stomach. He looked a little bit enlarged, but not much. And, but I recognized the signs, and I just, I was still in my pajamas. I saw it, and I just, ran in the house and, grabbed up my purse, grabbed up my stuff, threw him in the car. I was at the animal hospital within 20 minutes. They took him immediately in, x-rayed him. Sure enough, they saw that the stomach was starting to flip. He went immediately into surgery, was out within an hour. And he was fine. It was a partial flip. They said that if we waited much longer, it probably would have completely flipped. But we got there quick enough that we were able to, save him, and without any damage to the stomach or any of the internal organs. So we were really lucky that I caught it early and got him in right away. And very lucky it was a weekday and not a weekend. If it was a weekend, I would have had to driven probably about an hour to get to the emergency room. So I was very lucky that it was a weekday morning, and it was 20 minutes away, and they took him immediately into surgery. So we were lucky.
Absolutely lucky. And the power of having a little bit of knowledge and knowing what to do if you're remotely worried about the signs of something going that way.
Yeah. But So hopefully, yeah, that's the coughing, treating for pneumonia now, and the bloat, and then like I said, the spleen, not the spleen was fine, but the prostate. But as they get older, you anticipate health issues crop up. But we're really, really lucky that he survived the bloat, and now if we can just get his coughing to stop, and hopefully it's nothing more serious than, just giving some more weeks of antibiotics. Hopefully that'll do the trick.
I'm going to ask a question that I ask all my guests and I got a feeling I'm not probably going to get an interesting answer because of the way that Bacci's kept. But to complete the sentence, I can't believe my dog ate.
I watch him like a hawk. So he ate a fly the other. I was actually surprised. I was like, yay! I was so excited because he was brave enough. He ate the fly. I killed it for him, and it was on the floor. And I was like, you did it! And he was brave, and he went up and he ate the fly. And I was like, wow, he didn't run away from it. So I thought maybe that's a step in him getting a little more brave with the fly. But he did eat a fly the other day.
Well, look, small steps. It's like the elephant and the mouse sort of thing. You got this.
Yeah. That was about 3 days ago.
Strong mal, and it's just like the fly sends him like, no.
I know, it was my Doberman. She was funny. Like she'd see a spider or a fly and she'd be like, want to eat it. And then Bacci would see it and he'd be like running away, help, give me away. There's a fly on the floor.
Is there anything else coming to mind? Is there a story you'd like to share?
Oh, I think I've shared a number of them. Yeah, from the fly story. Off the top of my head, some of the puppy stories and things like that. But what I will add here is he is the whole reason why I have my business, my Northeast Canine Conditioning business. He's the reason I have a business that's allowed me to move to Maine and, have my dream home and live in my dream location. And I feel like I owe it all to him, because when he was younger, he had an injury, a soft tissue injury, just a pulled muscle. And that's what got me on the journey to learn about canine massage and canine fitness. And I was a professor of education at the university. I thought my entire working life would be in education at the university. And, I thought that my income level was always going to, you have a certain limit and this is how it's going to be. And learning about canine fitness through his injury and getting interested in this, it just opened up a whole new world of canine fitness. And then I started doing seminars and my online business where I teach people about canine fitness. And then that grew and got to the point where I was actually able to retire early from the university and basically run now my full-time and online business. And that allowed me to live in the location where I live now because I have an online business. And I really, all of it was because of Bacci.
You've actually preempted where I was going to go into that. So do you want to tell everyone what those businesses, and I say businesses, are?
Yeah, the business is Northeast Canine Conditioning, and we kind of have two components. One is where I teach. I have different online canine fitness courses for sport dogs, working dogs. People use it for their family pets. I have a course right now. We're doing enrollment, the Mission Ready Canine for police, military, and search and rescue handlers. And we have a certification program. It's called the Elite Canine Athlete Program that can lead to becoming a certified canine athlete specialist. So we have a series of different types of online programs to teach people about keeping their dogs fit and healthy and performing well. And then another part of the business is where I work with canine professionals and business owners, and I help them and consult with them on the business side of things. And because of my expertise in online teaching and learning, which also goes back to my PhD and my university experience. I help business owners move things online, grow their online following, or do things like doing online trainings or webinars or video libraries to doing 100% online courses and programs. So the other part of the business is helping people with the business side of things, the coaching and mentoring on the business side, and then also the canine fitness. And then I have another business that's ECB Aspire. It's where I do the same type of consulting and business support and technology support for other industries, not just the dog world.
Oh, fantastic. And there's also a ton of stuff on Facebook.
Yes. Yep. On the Northeast Canine Conditioning, it's the letter K in the number 9, Northeast Canine Conditioning Facebook page. If you go to my videos, I think I do it every week. I'm like in year 3. I think in 3 years, I've only missed 4 Fridays, but I've been doing every Friday Facebook live show, free content, mostly fitness, have some business topics. And I think we're up to about 165 shows. We might even be up to 170 shows there. So all of that's freely available through our Northeast Canine Conditioning Facebook business page.
So advise everyone, just check it out and you will find something that will help you, guaranteed.
And we also have, if people want to test their own, what is your canine fitness IQ and test your own canine fitness knowledge, we have a little quiz you can do online. It's called the Canine Fitness Quiz. It's the letter K, the number 9, just all together, caninefitnessquiz.com. And it's like a little self-assessment on a scale of 1 to 10. And we have different categories of areas of fitness where you can kind of rate yourself and see where you're strong when it comes to canine fitness and what areas maybe areas that you might want to learn more about. So people are definitely welcome to hop on over there, and it'll email you like a summary of your score, and you can look at the categories and see where you're strong and where you might be weaker. But that's a nice resource for people to kind of see what. I've had people that feel very, very confident in their canine fitness knowledge, and they take it and they're like, "Whoa, wow, I didn't think about this."
Always something more to learn.
Definitely.
Well, thank you very, very much for taking the time out for having a chat, and I have truly enjoyed hearing all about Bacci.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I'm always happy to talk about them.
Looking forward to catching up later. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to support the show, head on over to Ko-fi, that's ko-fi, and find the Relaxed Dog, and I would be very, very grateful. And you would also be helping out the show by just telling a friend and having a chat about it. So please do. Until next week, stay safe, and remember, your dog is family.